What are the new trends in cities due to COVID-19? Where should we invest? Where should we innovate? Pandemic is a separating force. During this time, we have less information. We are not well informed. Even the governments, they are not well informed. There are also less social bonds. We are isolated from our friends, or even from our family members. So we need to adapt faster. We were not prepared. In 2019, 2020, and due to this pandemic, two big trends appeared in the world. The first is the environment. There is a transition towards something that is more ecological and environmental. With this pandemic, people understand, like they had forgotten, that we are mortals. And this virus, which we can't see, is deadly to some of us. So people feel more aware about the sense of the environment and how this environment is damaged, and the sense of humanity, how to survive mankind. In Europe, there was many elections of mayors in 2020, and mayors from green parties got elected with a significant percentage. So it shows that the population is well aware and is determined to work towards an environment that should be sustainable and healthier. Even in China, the government is saying that is asking the people to grow crops on the balconies, as an example. So we are more conscious about the environment thanks to this pandemic. Of course, the trend of the global warming started before the pandemic, but now we understand what it means to die. The second big trend is online services. I don't need to explain that because you all are living in this trend. Everything went online, digital. In fact, this pandemic will catapult the world into even more advanced technology. You have seen how fast we develop technology in the last 12 months, 16 months. We are moving fast forward. And the innovations that we are creating, they are emerging from real needs and experiences. Could we innovate and find a solution to this face mask? This is not convenient. Can someone find, this is a real need, a real pain. Can you find an innovation to replace this face mask? Innovation will emerge from real needs because we have real needs now during this pandemic. To give you an example, this is a study done by McKinsey. And they are analyzing companies who are looking to digitize their activities. They were planning to do it in the coming months. And actually, due to the COVID-19 situation, they had to move faster. And the study says that the companies have moved 20 times to 25 times faster than expected before the pandemic. For example, they wanted to increase remote working, move to remote working before the pandemic. And they say it will take 454 days. In fact, due to the pandemic, they did it in 11 days. This is an acceleration factor of 43. Also, they wanted to increase the customer demand for online purchasing and services, moving online. So they were planning to do it in the next 585 days. In fact, they did it in 22 days, which is 27 times faster than it was planned. We are moving fast forward in this pandemic. So where are the areas where we should focus for innovation and investment? Technology, well, you see that we are surrounded by innovations, technological innovation during COVID-19. Healthcare, this goes without saying. We need to help our healthcare system. We need to innovate this healthcare system and provide them with more resources. Climate change. This is a trend that started before the COVID-19 crisis, and it will continue because now we are more aware that we can die anytime. The urban governance, urban management of the city is going to change. Our society is going to change. The way we are moving in cities, interacting between us is going to change. So the governance of the city is also going to change. Business models are going to be adapted. You have noticed the lack of supply of food, of medicines. You have noticed how the supply chain was impacted. And we turned sometimes to local solutions because we could not get drugs from overseas during the lockdowns. So business models are going to be reinvented. There is a domino effect because cities are complex systems. They are systems of interconnected systems. That means that whatever happens in one side of the city will have an impact on other sides of the city. We need to develop a systemic approach to solve urban problems. Those changes that we have observed, the first one is in our life, we changed our workspace. We all are working remotely. This is the new normal. And some of us, we are still working remotely and we don't even know where is our office since 1 year or more. We are working with virtual organizations now, even if that is causing some mental health problems all around the world. Companies, they are downsizing their office spaces, and even they are saying to their employees, don't come back. You no longer have an office. How could we improve the work from home experience in the future? This is another area of innovation. New distance services have been developed. All this online delivery-based services economy continue to grow. And actually, during the SARS pandemic in 2003 in Asia, it boosted the e-commerce in Asia and in China. Now, it continued to boost our e-services, including like healthcare, telemedicine, online education. Some universities are just working online now. Secondary education is also moving part-time online, 200% online. We have online museums, online zoos. Yes, in Japan, for example, we have in one zoo, the staff, they recognized that their animals, their wildlife animals, they were depressed. So they created video Skype calls. So you can now have a Skype call with a lion, any of those wildlife animals, and can talk to the baboon and explain to him what's going on in the world and why he's watching your face on the screen. So we are really innovating and finding those new solutions, crazy ones, that we would never have thought before the crisis. I would never had called the baboon before this crisis. We are no longer using coins since the pandemic. Only contactless payments are working. But it's not finished. What new distance services do you think we could create? Innovation is limitless. If you can call a baboon, the supply chain has been challenged. We have suffered from, in some countries, with lack of food or some of the equipment we wanted, lack of medicine, short of supply, because, we had lockdowns. So international globalization was no longer working. The question was, how much global should we have versus local? And sometimes locally, we cannot find the appropriate equipment and material. So in this crisis, we have realized how little is made locally. So this will help us to maybe think again how we should adapt our business models to be more resilient to global supply chain. Our society is challenged. We can already observe the mutations in our social relations. How we greet people. We can no longer touch, handshake. How these social norms are going to evolve. Are they going to be descriptive or prescriptive? Our social capital is really challenged again. We have so many people who are angry around the world, and their disposition to contribute, to follow the government instructions. Are we going to move to a personalization of citizens, like those who have been infected or who have a vaccine? Is this going to be public? Are we going to be personalized? So what will be the societal impacts from this crisis, from this pandemic? It is a good time to rethink what were the historic roles of the city. When we were a village, we were living in village, and one point in time, one man stand out, proposed a new governance, a new management, and we accepted it. It was a good value proposition for the citizens, and we invented the city, the concept of the city. The value proposition is that whoever will come to my city, his son and descendants will be richer than yourself, and the son of your son will be richer than your son. That was the initial value proposition of the city. Now, what should be the new role of the city? We are challenged. Our concept, our model, our modern model of the city is challenged because it doesn't work enough to sustain our city and our civilization. So there is this balance between cities and the rural environment. Should we move to the cities, or should we move back to the rural environment and have this natural social distance? Cities, actually, some cities are thinking of different concepts. Already now, they are thinking, for example, of the hour city, where within 1 hour around you, you should be able to find any services that you need. If you need to go to work, you go to study, or you go shopping, or you live, this should be within 1 hour walking distance. Because cities are a problem in terms of pandemics, but they also should be a solution, because they need to be resilient to climate change, but also to pandemics in the future. Cities are seen as community networks, and they have two types of autonomy. There is the conventional autonomy, where you have separated functions of the residential area, the business area, the shopping area, and in middle you can travel, you commute. And there is this functional autonomy where we assume that within a certain distance around you, you should have access to all resources that you need. And this is where you are actually creating districts. District 1, District 2, District 3, etc. In fact, this type of functional autonomy is easier to quarantine. This was part of the initial design of Paris hundreds of years ago. The 20-minute neighborhood is a concept developed by Victoria State government. So within 20 minutes around where you are living, you can go shopping, you can go to work or go to the parks or schools. Our homes, villas and apartments are going to change in the future. Already some architects are working on it with some moving walls, moving parts in the apartments, because maybe there is a setting for the day and there is a setting for the night. We are going to work more and more from home. So how do we adapt this spatial organization to the home? The evolution of the office space will no longer be about how people occupy spaces, but how people use and interact with the spaces and between them. The office will change and probably will be downsized. With this digital transformation, which is going fast forward, with these new sensors that we have, these new applications, these new services, this is going to have an impact on our social norms. How are we going to be able to adapt that fast? We can focus on healthcare. We need, and we already have experienced remote diagnosis and telemedicine. Because sure, if you have an infectious disease, and especially if it's a lethal, unknown one, you don't want your doctor. Your doctor doesn't want to meet with you. So remotely, it will be fine. But we need an epidemic intelligence as a new science. We need to know more about epidemics before they become pandemics. So epidemic prediction should use the usual suspects like artificial intelligence, deep learning, cloud computing, big data. So let's use this new technology for our good now. We need fast and accurate diagnosis. We cannot wait 1 week, to understand, I have a lethal disease and I have actually infected so many and all my family. So biotechnology may be a good help to detect diseases. In this period of time, governments, they have big dilemmas. It's very difficult for governments. And I'm not saying because I'm part of a government, which is not the case, but they are living in a high confusion time. They have the dilemmas between the human rights and the health. What is the right balance? Because health is private. And now everybody knows you have the COVID-19. They have to balance between utility and privacy. They have to balance between being a surveillance state or utilitarianism. Whatever they do, it's for the greatest good. They have to decide between the global economy versus self-efficiency. Are they going to restructure the local economy? This is probably going to happen in some countries. So they have to take very difficult political decisions. And they are even more difficult that they don't have enough information to make those decisions. In terms of investment, before the pandemic, ESG funds were emerging. ESG funds are concerned with environmental, societal, and governance issues. In fact, evolution and investments, they respond to threat and risk. Today, it's the pandemic, and next will be the climate change. So what are the challenges which are revealed in 2020? We have an over-optimized supply chain. Should production be done near consumption? Should we move global to local? We have rigid living and working places. Should we have transformable and adaptable places? And we know that architects are working on it. We have lack of proximity to resources in cities. Should we work on civic homeostasis and functional autonomy? We have unsafe mass transit. Should we develop walkability and lightweight modes? Cities are complex systems with siloed organizations, where information is clustered. Should we improve more this collaboration and cooperation between the urban departments? To conclude, we understand the unthinkable is possible. Globalization can have negative local impacts. We understand that our living environment will change after this pandemic. The urban management of the city will change with the change of the society. We understand that we will rely more and more on technology, which will in fact change our society and our norms. We understand that we need to be ready for the next pandemic. I wish you the best of luck.